Okay, after the brief introduction on types of lights, I will take you through a few slides to explain you a little bit more about what you would have to do. What you see here right now is the lighting that is showing you a combination of down lights, cove light, and the effect that you can generate in your own design. The entrance, the lighting is mostly about the space and the objects into it. What you are about to listen and see are a few examples of lighting techniques, their meaning, properties, and why they were chosen. Lighting is part of what makes exterior spaces interesting. And lighting is a powerful tool if people know how to use and manipulate the lighting that they're working on in relation to target spaces and objects therein. We're going to get to take you through the quality of life is something that is very elusive. Is not about what you get directly, but it's about the comforts that you get inside the space that you are, and it's about the quality that you would get in there. What you need to remember is that lighting is a powerful tool, and its positioning and target is, and the aim of it is what plays the biggest role and provide the best result that we can get, and explain why we feel comfortable in some spaces and not so in others. In my own terms, I usually speak of the language of light is a language in which a lighting design speaks to the users. The light types that are used speak to the space, speak to the material. Light is always transformative. It really transforms dynamically the space in which it is utilized. So if you understand well the principles of lighting, you always can come up with good results. This is an example of how much lighting can be elusive, actually. This space here is a staircase, which is in the middle of the house, and it's not receiving directly any light from outside. And the technique used here was to create windows in the upper side of both walls on the left and the right side to bring in natural light and artificial light. That way, what happens is that in the morning, as natural light flows in, it transforms this space. During the daytime, you get a different type of light. Again, dynamically, this space changes a bit. And in the evening, you get natural light in combination with artificial light from both sides of the wall. and of the staircase rather, it creates a different type of environment. What we're seeing here towards the end of it, of the staircase, is a glimpse of light into that enters the living room and flows a bit into the staircase of a residential house. Actually, this is a penthouse in Osaka. I had a chance to design this piece of space. It's on a 45th floor, and it has a 46th, which is part of the second part of the house. And this is the living room. So we have this is an example of actually why light is important. In this space, for example, we are showing a bit of layers of lighting. You have downlights, you have cove lights, as I explained a while ago, and you have chandeliers as well. And above all, or in addition to it, you have natural light that flows in with a beautiful view to the entire city of Osaka. I'll take you quickly into the main spaces of the house in a sequence that would allow you to do your own work. Entrances to the home, they set up a tone of the entire house and the activities that are basically to happen in there. So in many cases, these spaces nowadays are no longer as wide as they used to be in the past. Therefore, we can use lighting to modify their spaces, to make their spaces look a little bit wider, and sometimes to highlight details, architectural details, just as much as we would use them to hide flows and things that are not successful, things that we don't want people to see. So your lighting in the entrance would be more focusing on things that you want people to look at. And it is a face of the house, if you will, and it needs more attention as it is a place where homeowners make up their statement. Two examples of entrance halls lighting. On the left side, we have a chandelier as a main piece of lighting, and we have down lights that are bringing in the light straight to the floor. As you can see right here, we have a bubble of light, and then you have here, which is at the end of the light cone as the light goes way down to the floor. Whereas, and this tells you, of course, that this house has an upper floor. And on the right side, you have an entrance that has taken a different approach. You have a combination, again, on the left side, we have a combination of down lights or recessed lighting and a chandelier, one that hangs from the ceiling and brings a bit of light to the ceiling. And then we have on the right side the entrance hall, which is combining direction light, the down lights, and diffuse light in the form of cove light. And at the end, at the very end of this, there's a piece of glass, decorative piece of glass, that is reflecting the lighting and sort of doubling the space. And when you look at the left side of it, there is a mirror, and the mirror is reflecting the ceiling, extending the space of the entrance hall. And this has been made a little bit more dramatic by the lighting itself. That is two ways. The cove light sort of illuminates the ceiling, making a sharp a sharp contrast with the lower ceiling, which is a little bit darker because it has rather downlights in it. And downlights don't bring the light to the ceiling. Their lighting goes to the floor, and they have a tendency to look a little bit darker. If you look at the one picture on the left side, the lighting of the chandelier is actually brightening up part of the ceiling, and which is not the same as the picture on the right side, where the cove light has been used to lit up the ceiling, giving up similar results, brightening part of the ceiling. Once you step out of the entrance hall, the next space is the living room. Let's remember that the living room is a socializing space in the house, is one that polarizes the people, is a magnet of the house. People would gather in the living room, and requires comfort and a bit of drama in order to get the people of the house, gather, interact, and so forth. We will see, I showed you a picture in the previous slide, actually, that was shown. Let me go back a bit to that quickly. This picture here is in the living room. So you have this drama that is created by the combination, by the layers of lighting that you have in there. And then you have these three types of lighting in there. And the use of material that reflects part of the lighting is one thing. So when you're picking up your images, you need to pay attention to that as well. Because light speaks to the materials, which are making up the finishing of the house. And beyond, after the living room, we would be looking into the dining room lighting. Dining rooms are becoming more and more a place where they always have been, as a matter of fact, a place where people would gather. The main event in the house would basically sort of taking place at the dining table in the dining room. Have birthdays, for example, just celebrated there. Friends come into the house for dinner. They would spend quality time with their guests, with their hosts, at the dining table in many cases. And it's sometimes referred to as a family room in some cases. So the main point with lighting in the dining room is to have light that falls on the dining table itself so that it reveals and enhances the quality of the food, whereas it would, not whereas, but as it casts the light on the food, shows the food, reveals the quality of the food, and the light falls actually on the faces of the people at the dining table. So the one thing you would like to avoid is to have a lighting that creates shadows of people sitting at the table over the food. Is the last thing you want to do. So you got to make sure that and that's why in many cases you would see the lighting of the dining comes in a form of pendants or ceiling lighting, but that are really, really in the middle, right above the dining, is to avoid creating shadows. And we have here